welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Beth Ann, and I'm back after my unannounced booktube hiatus while we dealt with the craziness of wrapping up our lives in Minnesota and moving to New York. So here we are. We still don't have furniture, which is why I'm sitting in a camp chair. Um, Timestamps below for folks who want to just skip to my wrap up, but I'm going to chat briefly about life stuff. So yeah, we still don't have furniture. It's supposed to arrive in 2 days. This is Monday, should arrive Wednesday. We'll unpack it Thursday. Fingers crossed. We didn't really anticipate that delay. So we were lucky that we had a bunch of useful stuff packed in our 2 cars that we drove across the country. So here I am in my empty apartment in a camp chair. We have some artwork around. But anyway, yes, we made it to New York. The move was horrible. It took way longer to pack stuff up than I was anticipating. Because we somehow, even though we've lived in the same size apartment, we accumulated a lot of stuff and got rid of a lot of stuff, but it was still a lot to pack. And then we started driving, and my partner sprained his thumb, like literally right before we started driving away. And so he was in a lot of pain for the road trip. And then he got food poisoning, and I was like, why did I marry you? Just kidding. Yeah, he ate leftovers from the fridge that we took with us the day that we moved. But the first night of our road trip, we camped in 90-degree heat. It only got down to about 70 degrees that night. And then he ate the leftovers for breakfast, and then he was sick that night. So that was exciting. But we're here now. We've got library cards at the library, most important thing. And the Finger Lakes, we're in the Finger Lakes of New York, which is absolutely beautiful. I love it so much more than Minnesota. We're sort of scheming, especially me, about how we can maybe stay here permanently, even though our current plan, we know we're going to be here 2 years, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this place so much. Can we please stay longer? So we'll see. Anyway, so I'm here today with my August wrap up, which will be very short. I only read 4 books in the month of August with all the moving stuff, and work was crazy, so it was a good time. Okay, so let's just get right into it. So the first book I finished is The Fires of Vengeance by Evan Winter, which I did already do a standalone review, so I will link to that below. And that was fun. It was the second book following The Rage of Dragons, which was his first big book that came out, I think, just in 2020, and then I think The Fires of Vengeance came out in 2021. And I really wish he'd taken more time to do The Fires of Vengeance. It felt like a lot of pieces were there. I really loved The Rage of Dragons, and a lot of pieces were there in The Fires of Vengeance to continue the story well, but then the writing just wasn't as good. And the page-to-page writing was good, but sort of the overall structure of the novel just didn't really come together in ways that I liked and made it feel satisfying to me. So that was a bit of a letdown after the first book. I will still continue in the series as he publishes it, though, because I need to know what happens. So anyway, go check out the review if you're interested in new epic fantasy that has some really fun twists on your typical fantasy. Okay, and then the second book I finished is Dragons of Winter Night, which is the second book in the original Dragonlance trilogy. And if you've been on my channel at all, ever, you know I love the original Dragonlance trilogy. So that was really fun to reread. I buddy read the first one, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, with John from Hey Y'all Listen Up, earlier in the summer. And then this second one, Dragons of Winter Night, wasn't really a buddy read, but read it and then discussed it with a group of people over on Pete's channel, Ponderings of Pete. So I will link to that discussion video below, and John was part of that as well. And it was really fun to talk about that book with other people. I've really only talked about it before with like a handful of close friends that read it at the same time that I did in high school, and so we had the same sort of nostalgic starting point. But that discussion group was a mix of people who read it for the first time when they were in college, or even one person who was reading it for the first time now. So that was really fun, and we're going to continue with Dragons of Spring Dawning, the third book in the series, which I will be taking part in a group discussion later this month. Anyway, I assume if you've, hopefully all of you have read the Dragonlance Chronicles. If you haven't, go do it. And yeah, I assume nobody really wants a plot summary, because if you're interested in it, you already probably know about it. Then the third book I finished was Wild by Cheryl Strayed, which has been on my list forever because I love backpacking. And I finally listened to it on audio, which was a good choice. The audio I thought was really, really good. And for anybody who doesn't know, Wild is sort of a memoir, and it's the tale of her journey along the Pacific Crest Trail in the 90s. She hit the trail sort of when her personal life had hit rock bottom. Her mother had died when she was in her early 20s. Her marriage had fallen apart. She was making some pretty bad decisions as she dealt with the fallout of all of those really emotionally difficult things. And so then she decided to hike the Pacific Crest Trail as a way to get away and a reset and to find her center. And I think it worked. Yeah, the book was amazing. It's beautifully written from a backpacking perspective. I really loved it because I've been through many of those same physical and emotional outdoor hiking things that she's describing. I've never hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. Any pieces of it, but I know enough about it that it was really fun to sort of hear little snippets as she was going along. And then the memoir aspect I thought was really beautiful. I thought she did a really great job of interweaving episodes from the past with where she was on the Pacific Crest Trail. And so sort of, you never got tired of any one piece. Sort of never got tired of how sad she was before she went on the Pacific Crest Trail, because then you take a break and go be on the trail for a little bit, and you never got tired of the monotony of hiking because she'd be talking about that for a bit, but then we'd be in her past thinking about a meaningful episode. So I thought it was a really, really well done memoir. It's one that I enjoyed it a lot on audio, and I would like to read it in print someday, just to get sort of those two different modes of accessing the story. So if you haven't read that yet, I really recommend it if you like memoir and or hiking. I thought it was great. And then the fourth book I finished in the month of August was The Devil's Diadem by Sara Douglas. Sara Douglas is an Australian sci-fi fantasy, maybe just more fantasy author, who I've mixed feelings about. I read her Wayfarer Redemption series, which is the thing she's most well known for, several years ago, and it's a fantasy series that I really liked it when I read it for the first time in late high school and college, and then I tried rereading it as an adult, and I'm not that far past college, right? I was like 30 when I tried to reread it, and I think I pretty much liked the first book, but then I DNF'd the series because I was like, this is awful. Like, the writing is okay in that series, but then there are just these horrible descriptions of things that just like didn't need to be as nasty as they were. And like, I'm a person who likes Game of Thrones and can like really gory stuff, and like really nasty stuff happens in the Evan Winter series that I was talking about earlier. Like, I don't mind nasty stuff, but I don't know, some people do a better job of making it feel part of the story than Sara Douglas does. um so yeah, so I DNF'd that series. And then this Devil's Diadem book I had on my bookshelf. I think I picked it up, sort of impulse buy in 2011 when I had read her Wayfarer Redemption series and liked it. And this one is sort of historical fiction. It takes place essentially during the time of the Black Plague in like 12th century England, and there is a plague sweeping the nation. Well, okay, it's supposed to be something that's like our England, but isn't. But it's like, this is totally England. There's a town called London. I don't know why you're not just calling this historical fiction. Anyway, there's a plague sweeping England, but it's not the Black Plague. It's different in its medical presentation, but then it turns out that it also has a very different source, and then we get into a little bit of a fantasy world building, where the source of that plague is not biological and natural, and our main character is a lovely, lovely young woman. I really liked her. She was, just really sort of, I don't want to say sure of herself, because she had a lot of moments of uncertainty in the book, but like she just had a lot of equanimity. She was a very sympathetic character. And so she turns out to be sort of at the heart of this. It was interesting. We're mostly following this one character and sort of the relationships that she's building as she goes through her life and the impacts they have on her, and then how she gets sort of caught up in being sort of part of the story of how this plague originated and how it has to get wrapped up. She is sort of a, even though she's a sympathetic character, she doesn't do much. She's sort of at the mercy of the men around her, which makes sense for the time that it's based in. But did get a little bit frustrating. But that part is handled well. So that's not even really a critique. Like, what am I trying to say? So the book was well written. Um, it was very gripping in a way that the Wayfarer Redemption series wasn't. Like, I didn't want to put it down. Like, it was very, yeah, I just really wanted to know what happened. The story was gripping. I think my main gripe about this and why it wasn't a 5-star book for me is that the sort of mystical, fantastical things that underlay the plague, they just weren't really wrapped into the world. In a way that worked. So it was sort of like, here's this world based on 12th century England where typical political warfare like stuff is happening. Then there's a plague, which makes sense, but oh, the plague actually has this separate origin. And there was just so much that could have been done with the fantastical elements that underlay the plague. So it comes down to like the old people and myths and legends about sort of the fairy folk and the old people of the British Isles. But in the book, it's just this isolated thing where they cause the plague, and it's like, wouldn't there have been more going on? And so, yeah, there just weren't enough links, I guess, between sort of the 12th century England part of it and the old people part of it. There was just like this one thing where like all of a sudden there was a plague and people who have old blood are resistant to it. So yeah, so it just wasn't, I really enjoyed reading it. Like I said, I didn't want to put it down, even though it was pretty long. But then at the end, I was just sort of like, this is it? Really? If that makes sense. All right, that's a lot of time talking about a book I wasn't very excited about. Has anybody else read Sarah Douglas? I now really want to talk to somebody who's read her books before, because I don't know anybody in my personal life who's read her books. So I would love to just chat about it if any of you have read Sarah Douglas, any of her books. I think she's quite prolific. Anyway, okay, that was my August reading wrap up. And I've been reading books in September, so I'll have more for you soon. I haven't decided. I might either do this week or more likely next week, once we're a little more settled in with the furniture and everything. I might try to do one video a week for 5-day work week, just to sort of get myself back in the game and kick things off a little bit. I probably won't follow through on that because I'm very lazy. So we'll just see. Anyway, I'll decide in the next few days, and maybe make an announcement in my next video if I decide to do it. So anyway, I'm glad to be back. I missed making videos, and I especially missed watching BookTube because I'm very behind on watching everyone else's videos. So now that we're settled in and I have chores again, I'm definitely looking forward to catching up with everyone on your channels as well. So have you read any of the books I read in August? What did you think? Have you read any of these authors? Like Cheryl Strayed has written a lot more books that I would like to read. Have you read Sarah Douglas? Let's chat in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks. Bye.